Good morning, and welcome to the worship service of the Universalist Unitarian Church of Peoria. My name's Amy Popp, and I serve as the Religious Education Director for this caring, active community. We welcome all of you to our service this morning, especially those of you that are searching for a welcoming home for your mind, body, and spirit. Many of us were once also seeking for something larger than ourselves to belong to, for a groundedness to hold us as we find meaning together. We do that well here, though not perfectly. In this congregation, we strive not for perfection, but for authenticity and connection. Whether it's your first time here or your 100th time, we hope that you'll find here ideas and questions that stretch you, and liberal values that challenge you to join us in loving boldly, living justly, and welcoming all to the table. Our guest speaker today is Dr. Melanie Davis, who is the Unitarian Universalist Association's Our Whole Lives, or OWL, Sexuality Education Program Manager. She is the author of Our Whole Lives, Sexuality Education for Older Adults, and Sexuality in Our Faith, a companion to OWL for grades 7 through 9. Melanie is a lifelong UU and member of the Beacon UU congregation in Summit, New Jersey. She has a sexuality counseling and education practice for teens and adults and is on the faculty of Widener University's Center for Human Sexuality Studies. We welcome her and her insights this morning.
Good morning. Our opening words are by Dana Folds. It is enough right now to taste one moment of peace. Of course I want more, but at least the door is open. It is enough to draw a conscious breath and let my hands relax, fingers releasing their tight grasp on things outside of my control. It is enough to shed a layer of stress as if taking off a jacket or a pair of too tight shoes. The ease of being has to start somewhere. This breath is my first step. Welcome to this sacred time of worship.
Let us gather today with minds and hearts open to the miracle of life. Let us celebrate the wonder of biology, spirit, sexuality, and destiny that brought us to this point in our lives and which will continue throughout the rest of our days. May this chalice light our way.
This is the story of the Great Big Hug, written by Issy Abraham Raveson, who is a preschool teacher and a former student of mine. You are among some of the first people to get to hear this story. The story begins with Elephant and Meerkat, who love each other and make each other laugh. Meerkat always comforts Elephant when it's time to get a vaccination, and Elephant never laughs when Meerkat snores during sleepovers. Can you snore like a meerkat? Every morning, Elephant gives Meerkat a great big hug, and Meerkat smiles a great big smile. But one day, Meerkat doesn't smile. Instead, Meerkat lets out a great big ouch. Elephant and Meerkat feel confused. Elephant gave Meerkat another great big hug, and once again, Meerkat let out a great big ouch. Now they both felt upset. Then Elephant noticed their great big reflection in the watering hole. I'm bigger than I was yesterday. I'm so big my hugs hurt Meerkat. Maybe I have become too big to have a friend so small. Feeling very sad, Elephant ran away to look for a bigger friend to play with. Soon, Elephant saw Sloth. Sloth, let's wrestle, Elephant shouted, tackling Sloth. Stop, Sloth shouted back. Slow down, Elephant. I do not want to wrestle. Well, once again, Elephant felt confused. Well, stop being boring. I'm just trying to have fun with you. We wrestled last week, so I know you like wrestling, Elephant pointed out. Well, I am busy going for a great big run, said Sloth. But you went running yesterday, Elephant said. And I refuse to give up halfway through, said Sloth. Well, that's impossible, said Elephant. Nobody runs that slowly. Sloth doesn't want to play with me and must be afraid of getting squished if we wrestle. And off Elephant ran to find an even bigger friend to play with. Soon, Elephant saw Ostrich, peacefully bird-watching. Ostrich is definitely big enough to play with me without getting hurt, Elephant thought. Ostrich, guess what? It's tickle time, Elephant called, running over to Ostrich. Elephant started tickling, but instead of laughing, Ostrich hopped away and hid their head in the sand. Can you pretend to hide your head in the sand? Oh no, Elephant thought. Even a great big animal like Ostrich doesn't want to play with me. Maybe no one will ever want to play with me again. This is a great big mess. I will float myself out to sea on a great big iceberg and live alone forever. And that's what Elephant did, laying on an iceberg in the middle of the ocean, feeling sad. My heart is so heavy. None of my friends like me anymore. I guess elephants are just too big to have friends. I will live the rest of my life alone on this iceberg. Elephant wailed a great big wail. Can you cry like a sad elephant? Who called my name? Asked Big Blue Whale in a great big voice. Shush, Blue Whale said. I'm playing hide and seek with Seagull. Hooray, thought Elephant. I have found someone bigger than me. There's no way I can hurt Big Blue Whale. Now I can have a friend. Elephant reached out to give Big Blue Whale a big hug. Stop, bellowed Whale. Everyone say stop, like a big blue whale. Elephant was distraught. No one likes me. I'm too big even for Blue Whale, the biggest of all mammals. That's not true, said Blue Whale. I just don't like hugs. How about a high fin? I'm trying to think of what a high fin might look like. Maybe Can you do that? Elephant thought about what Blue Whale said. I like hugs and wrestling, but Blue Whale likes high fins and hide and seek. I wonder what Ostrich likes, or Sloth. Maybe it's okay for us all to like different things. Maybe they still like me, even if they don't always like to play the way that I do. Maybe I'm not too big to have friends after all. Blue Whale gave Elephant a ride back to the shore. Elephant said thank you and set off to find Ostrich and make things right. Ostrich, you clearly didn't like my tickles. I'm sorry I didn't notice sooner. Is there something else you'd like to do? Elephant asked, hopefully. Ostrich smiled and drew a great big tic-tac-toe board, and they played until Elephant set off to find Sloth. Sloth, Elephant said, I realized that just because you want to wrestle with me last week doesn't mean that you want to wrestle with me today. Can I join you on your run? Sloth said, I finished my run 2 miles in 2 days. Wow, Elephant said, that's a personal best. And Sloth said, thanks. Now I'm ready to wrestle. And Elephant grinned and tackled Sloth. After a while, Elephant set off to find Meerkat and make things right. Meerkat was sitting all alone, but jumped up and said, Elephant, I'm so happy to see you. I was so worried when you ran off and didn't come back. Elephant said, I'm sorry I worried you. And I'm sorry I hurt you when I hugged you. I thought I was too big to be your friend. Meerkat said, I love your hugs and I love you. Can we just try a gentler hug? I didn't think of that, said Elephant. And then Elephant gave Meerkat a great big gentle hug, and Meerkat smiled a great big smile. The end. Now, what can we learn from Elephant's story? When it comes to touching other people, we need to ask first to be sure they want to be touched. Elephant learned that everyone has a right to say they don't want to be touched, no matter how young or old or big or small they are. If we want to be touched, we can ask for that too. Other people might say yes, or they might say no, and both are okay. The important thing is that everyone feels comfortable. Thank you for listening to our story.
It is good to be together and gather every week in all the seasons of our life. As a beloved community, we share the wonder and abundance found in those joys that burst forth from our hearts. And because we continue in the long line of members and friends engaged in mutual care, we offer our collective strength for the sorrows and struggles among us. Thank you to Shar Ricky for collecting our joys and sorrows this week. And first, we offer our congratulations to Sarah Short and Justin McAlexander as they welcome their new daughter, Bowie Lynn McAlexander, born on August 23rd. Bowie Lynn also has a big sister, Everlyn, and a big brother, Draven, to welcome her home. Ian Kells is the son of Marnie and Eric Kells and grandson of Phyllis and Bob Kells. Ian built the benches at the Universalist Unitarian Church of Peoria, Great Grove, to complete his requirements needed for the Eagle Scout Award. He received his Eagle this month, in fact, in August. And congratulations also to Karen and Mike Lichterman, who will be celebrating their 45th wedding anniversary on August 30th. And congratulations to Terry Malone and Sandy Meskimen for winning first and second place in this year's Illinois Art League show for their works. I believe their pieces are a part of a display at the Clockwork Gallery in East Peoria. On a more challenging note, we offer our sympathies to Terry and Tom Malone.
Terry's mother died early Friday morning after entering hospice care. She was 95. We offer our love and support to Terry and Tom as they care for Terry's 69-year-old sister, who is in hospice, and Tom's 68-year-old brother, who requires a move to a new residence. And in the larger world, I recognize the sorrow, rage, and pain in the aftermath of yet another police shooting of a black man. Jacob Blake's life was forever changed after a police officer shot him in the back multiple times on August 23rd. As he begins his recovery, the community of Kenosha, Wisconsin is deep in its own conflict of protest and now deadly clashes. Many in that community also advocate for witness and justice. Our hearts go out to Jacob Blake, his family, and his community. As a congregation, may we also offer support to our sibling congregation, Bradford Community Church Unitarian Universalist. They lost their sign in a fire related to this conflict, and they also continue to advocate for justice and against oppression. I know many of you are heartbroken and angry at these and related events. Thank you for sharing your sorrow and frustration in our gatherings. Thank you for encouraging further action from this congregation. Your leaders are finding ways for all of us to show up. Look for more news in our upcoming publications. And please reach out to each other and to me as well. Let us hold all the joys, sorrows, names, and milestones in our hearts for one more moment together. Amen.
Please join now in a guided meditation. Please find a comfortable position, perhaps setting down any coffee cups or anything that might be in your hands. Close your eyes if that's comfortable for you, or let them rest a couple feet out in front of you. Spirit of life and love, may we find appreciation today and in our lives for our embodiment. We are physical creatures, mind, spirit, and soul housed within our bodies. Our bodies, our physical form, allow us to experience the world. Taste chocolate chip cookies fresh from the oven. Touch the warmth and smoothness of a baby's skin. Sight the blossoming colors of sunrise and sunset. Sound the laughter of friends and family. Smell the aroma of fresh baked bread. In particular today, may we find gratitude for our sexuality. May we be grateful for and appreciate our gender identity, our sexual orientation, our physical selves. May we appreciate the pleasure, the intimacy, the connection that comes with and is part of our sexuality. May we also remember that for many, sexuality can bring a variety of emotions: shame, sadness, trauma, anger, pain, hurt. For all the joy and goodness that embodiment brings, it also has its challenges. Aching joints, long-term health conditions, severe illness, and more. Today, as we gather in community, may we honor the whole of ourselves as well as the spectrum of sexual experience, holding the joys in all their richness and the sorrows in all their fullness in our hearts.
We're going to start with There Is a Love by Beth Norton, and the text is by Reverend Rebecca Parker, who just retired as the president of Stargate logical. 2, 3. There is love, holy me. There is love, holy God that I love. There is Will you please rise?
I have often wondered what it would be like if we taught young people swimming in the same way we teach sexuality. If we told them that swimming was an important adult activity, one that they will all have to be skilled at when they grow up, but we never talked with them about it. We never showed them the pool. We just allowed them to stand outside the closed doors and listen to all that splashing. Occasionally, they might catch a glimpse of a partially clothed people going in and out of the door to the pool, and maybe they'd find a hidden book on the art of swimming. But when they asked a question about how swimming felt or what it was about, they would be greeted with blank or embarrassed looks. Suddenly, when they turned 18, we would fling open the doors to the pool and they would jump in. Miraculously, some might learn to tread water, but many would drown. We read those words by Elizabeth Canfield when we train future facilitators of Our Whole Lives Sexuality Education. We want to impress upon them the importance of the task they are about to undertake. Whether they'll be working with kindergartners or 80-year-olds, they will be entrusted with providing education that is sensitive, engaging, potentially triggering, compassionate, bonding, challenging, life-affirming, and empowering. In other words, the facilitator's job will be to keep people from drowning in sexual ignorance. Our Whole Lives, or OWL, is a lifespan curriculum co-published by the Unitarian Universalist Association and the United Church of Christ. OWL has been in use since 1999, when it replaced the About Your Sexuality curriculum developed in the 1970s. OWL is one of the most successful programs of the Unitarian Universalist Association. Today, it is used in religious and secular settings throughout the US and Canada. with culturally appropriate adaptations being used in the Philippines and pilot tested in Rwanda and Tanzania. I'll speak more about OWL in a moment, but first I'll share why we talk about sexuality at all in our congregations. The UUA has been committed to sexual rights and health for more than 40 years. Congregations and national leaders rose to the personal and political challenge of the AIDS crisis. We led interfaith coalitions in the successful movement toward marriage equality. We continue to hold a place at the forefront of the ongoing struggle for gender and reproductive justice. Our bylaws and practices recognize many identities and types of relationships, as well as the need to prevent sexual abuse and misconduct, including misconduct by our clergy. UUism sees sexual expression as an affirming part of the human experience, and we support everyone's right to learn about and to engage in sex in consensual, pleasurable, developmentally appropriate ways. We also acknowledge that sexuality in our society is damaged by violence, exploitation, alienation, dishonesty, abuse of power, and the treatment of people as objects. Our faith tradition doesn't maintain a list of thou shalt nots. Rather, we offer opportunities to learn about sexuality, to engage in dialogue, and to gain spiritual perspectives on sex so that we can make decisions wisely, ethically, and in accordance with our personal and faith values. Our embrace of sexuality as a core element of human experience has proved to be literally life-saving for people of all ages who have emerged from religious traditions that shamed or diminished them. They have found that Unitarian Universalism encourages them to discover or reconnect with the rich and vibrant beauty of their sexuality. Scientific evidence is central to UU perspectives on sexuality. We trust the statistics showing that education decreases rates of unintended pregnancy and improves health outcomes. We know that honoring each person's sexual identity can decrease self-harm. We know that sexual expression is a developmental process that begins in infancy and lasts through life. We know that consent education decreases sexual assault. We offer welcoming congregation and welcoming renewal programs to support people of all sexual orientations. A new small group ministry program called Parents and Caregivers as Sexuality Educators, and a host of webinars and resources on consent and on topics such as supporting gender diverse children, youth, and adults. More than half of our congregations have offered at least one age level of Our Whole Lives over the years. Those that haven't usually report that they either lack sufficient numbers of participants, or they lack facilitators, they have other priorities, or perhaps they lack the money to train facilitators. Right now, our OWL programs and facilitator trainings are on hold, of course, during a pandemic, because the health risks of gathering in person are just too great. My UCC OWL colleague and I are hosting monthly online meetings to support congregations in offering different types of sexuality education to families, and we have offered advice to congregations seeking to create their own online programming. It's not Our Whole Lives, but it may help tide people over until we can meet in person again. Excuse me. This break in OWL programming is frustrating, but it also affords us an opportunity to engage in conversations about new ways of offering OWL later on, perhaps new levels of the program, or participating in field tests, or expanding OWL programs into the larger community. I should say that Our Whole Lives is a lifespan program with starting at kindergarten and going through older age. So there are many, many opportunities to think about. Our Whole Lives has set the gold standard for comprehensive sexuality education, both religious and secular, for 20 years, and it is a gift that we give our congregations and often our communities. OWL's effectiveness is due in part to the values embodied within the curriculum. Now, values are ideals or beliefs or attitudes that guide our behavior. They explain what we understand to be good or bad, desirable or undesirable. For example, in terms of gender and orientation, we are who we are. We don't choose our sexual identity. However, our values determine whether we will accept and appreciate our own and others' gender and orientation. Our values are guided by the families and culture we grow up in, our faith traditions, and our life experiences. They affect the types of people we find physically attractive, what smells and sounds we find arousing, the kind of clothing or body modification that we deem alluring or off-putting. They also affect our decisions around sexual health and whether to parent, and whether or how we will engage in relationships. Our values shape our views about sexuality as a positive or negative part of our humanity. The OWL program helps people of all ages explore sexuality within a framework of the values of self-worth, responsibility, sexual health, justice, and inclusivity. These values honor sexuality as a good part of the human experience, even as we recognize that aspects of it can be misused and violated. When people call me to inquire whether the program is a good fit for their organization or their individual child, I say, well, if you agree with the OWL values, then this curriculum might be a good fit. But if any of those values don't work for you, a different curriculum might be a better choice. For example, a Baptist minister once called me and asked if he could offer OWL without all that gay affirming material. I said he couldn't, because the OWL value of justice and inclusivity honors every aspect of sexuality, including a range of sexual orientations. These values are reflected in every activity, every reading, and every recommended resource within the curriculum. They are the music that sings throughout all levels of the curriculum. So let's go through them. Self-worth. Now, this is usually defined as a sense that people have of their own value. In OWL, we also identify it as the belief that people at all ages and stages are entitled to dignity and self-worth and to their own attitudes and beliefs about sexuality. The OWL value of responsibility calls us to enrich our lives by expressing sexuality in ways that enhance human wholeness and the fulfillment, and that express delight and pleasure, responsible sexual choices, love, and commitment. The value of sexual health says that knowledge about human sexuality is helpful, not harmful. We all have the right to accurate information about sexuality and to have our questions answered. We teach that healthy sexual relationships are consensual, non-exploitative, mutually pleasurable, safe, developmentally appropriate, respectful, and based on mutual expectations and caring. This value also acknowledges the many ways there are to express sexual feelings alone or with a partner, and that it is healthier for young teens to postpone sexual intercourse. The justice and inclusivity value acknowledges that people of all ages, races, ethnicities, genders, backgrounds, income levels, physical and mental abilities, and sexual orientations must have equal values and rights when it comes to sexuality. Essential to our ability to truly embody the value of justice and inclusivity is the UUA's and the UCC's new commitment to hire critical readers during the OWL curriculum development process. These readers provide feedback based on their personal perspectives of marginalized race, disability, gender, and orientation. Excuse me. We do this because it's essential that we get OWL right. It may be the only place that participants trust others enough to disclose their sexual identity, to experiment with the use of new pronouns or names, or to ask questions that they might not feel comfortable asking their friends. OWL programs are a setting that transforms a cultural climate of confusion and fear around sexuality into a new reality in which every person's inherent worth and dignity is valued. This is especially true when congregations incorporate material from a companion guide called Sexuality and Our Faith, which adds a religious ritual such as chalice lightings and hymns, or biblical references in the UCC program, and adds faith-relevant discussions to secular sexuality education. This faith companion is important because liberal religious sexuality education gives children, youth, and adults a safe forum in which to make meaning of their lives. Participants learn to feel good about themselves and their sexuality while they clarify their own values and faith values, apply those values to their decisions and experiences, and learn about their bodies and their feelings, identity, behaviors, and relationships. OWL employs experiential learning theory, which is a process of completing an activity before sharing observations about it, reflecting on what is learned, and considering how that new knowledge can be put to use. This model fits well with our Unitarian Universalist affirmation of each person's search for truth and meaning. In the elementary grades, OWL brings these experiences into participants' homes with drawing and reading activities that supplement what children learn in OWL workshops with their facilitators. This supports parents in their role as their children's primary sexuality educator. In OWL for grades 7 to 9, one activity uses grab bags of differently colored candies to teach the impact of contraceptives and barrier protection on the likelihood of unintended pregnancy and sexually transmitted infections. In OWL for older adults, participants can share stories of loss before completing activities that honor grief and help participants identify ways that they could bring more joy into their lives. Now, participants may not recall the specifics of activities like this later, but they will recall the experience of being fully accepted, conversing comfortably about sensitive topics, and learning how to make values-informed decisions that respect their own and others' sexuality and worth. No other curriculum does sex ed like Our Whole Lives and Sexuality and Our Faith do. I've been a fan of the program since 2000, when my congregation's religious educator recruited me to learn how to facilitate a brand new program called OWL. Back then, I was only familiar with the curriculums for children and youth, but today I'm committed to lifespan sexuality education. Now, some of you of a certain age might wonder, what is there left to learn? But I assure you that you're never too old or too experienced to make meaning of your life experiences, to share wisdom, and to learn more. When I was traveling by train a few years ago, I began speaking with a Jewish man sitting across from me in the dining car. We shared our professions, his as a cantor, mine as a sex educator. He disclosed the tension that he felt being married to the mother of his children while being sexually attracted to men. He said that he read a book that claimed that his same-sex attraction was due to his being damaged by poor parenting. We discussed sexual orientation and the implications of religious values and psychological theory for the next 30 minutes. I didn't try to challenge his religious beliefs, but I did point out the flaws in the psychological theory that he had referenced. If he had been in an adult OWL program, he would have been invited to examine the values that he was taught, and he would have learned that his sexual orientation is an intrinsic and good part of his humanity, rather than making him damaged goods. An illustration of the value of sex ed for older adults came from a woman in her 70s who mistakenly walked into an OWL for older adults workshop that was being field tested at her congregation. When she realized her mistake, she told her director of religious education, "I don't need this class. I'm a widow. I'm not even dating anyone." Her friends encouraged her to stay, and she remained throughout the 14-week program. At the end of the program, the woman proudly told the group, "I just tossed out my ratty old pajamas and bought a new pair that feels wonderful against my skin. I know now I deserve that kind of pleasure, and I don't need someone else around to appreciate it." That feedback made my heart sing. I didn't write the curriculum to help older adults have better sex, although that might be the result. I wrote it to help them feel more confident, more hopeful, and more empowered in their right to sensual pleasure and sexual expression in whatever form that might take. Whether it's buying new pajamas, coming out of the closet, protecting their sexual health, or simply experiencing more joy. Blessed be. We are part of a faith tradition that values us as sexual beings throughout our whole lives. We may express our sexuality in different ways, and we may not always understand each other's identities or behaviors, but if we consider sexuality within the context of our UU principles and our whole lives values of self-worth, responsibility, sexual health, justice, and inclusivity, we will treat our own and others' sexuality with respect, acceptance, and joy. May it be so. Now, as we enter into closing words, if you're comfortable doing so, please place a hand over your heart. And after these closing words, you're welcome to come to coffee hour by staying in the Zoom space. May you see that you are loved today, at whatever age and life stage you find yourself. And may you know that you will continue to be loved tomorrow and all the tomorrows to come. Go in peace, finding joy and solace in equal measure.